On this episode of the podcast, I have Jenna Hitchcock on the podcast with me. She is a somatic sex coach and trauma release breathwork facilitator. So on this call, we actually talk about trauma and releasing trauma from the body and the power of that. We talk about the power of breath and give you an activity to be able to help you move through anxiety, stress, tension, and to be able to come back to presence. We drop into embodiment. Funny, I used the words drop into embodiment and what that means. We talk about money as currency and how we expand ourselves to allow ourselves to open up and receive more money, and ultimately how to become a magnet for money and wealth creation. We have some fun discussing the power of orgasms and how that helps us with our wealth creation. This is a super potent episode of deep feminine wisdom around money and wealth and breath and being present and truly enjoying life. Please enjoy this show. Hello, and welcome to this episode of the Wealth Alchemist podcast. Today, I have the pleasure of having Jenna Hitchcock on the call with me. She is a qualified somatic sex coach, a trauma release breathwork facilitator, and along with these modalities, she has 17 years of working with women intimately one-on-one. She believes you have all you need within you and has devoted her work to reminding you of your greatness, guiding you with the felt senses of the body through breath, touch, sound, movement, emotions, and meditations. After 20 years of being dissociated from her body, Jenna came home to herself. I love that. She didn't think her way there. She felt it. I 100% love everything about that. By dropping into your body and feeling the discomfort, feeling the pain, expressing it all, and then releasing her joy, freedom, and beauty within, and reclaiming all of who she is, and choosing to help other women to do the same. She believes that once you experience the full spectrum of who you are through your feelings, your soul language, you open up yourself to a depth of yourself and accessing a greater aliveness, vitality, joy, and bliss beyond what you may have ever known. And that begins with accessing the senses of the body, aka embodiment, becoming attuned to the felt senses and body's wisdom, realizing it is all within us to create from. Love. I read that and I was like, yummy. I met Jenna a few weeks ago doing a breathwork session, actually. And I loved the session. And for me personally, and you don't know this yet, Jenna, for me personally, when I first got into this like health world, I was doing body work. I was doing a diploma in massage therapies and body work. And I went very deep into myofascial release, as you would imagine. That obviously has a lot to do with unwinding our bodies. And through my external trainings in that, we did a lot of breath work and rebirthing stuff as well. So it's been a huge part, like this embodiment practice, this physical body part of healing was where I started. And it's such a powerful, powerful modality. And so I was really excited to meet you then, because I knew you had to come on the show, because I just know the importance of how much our body holds stuff that when we release it, there is such a different sense of freedom that we get from, and the experience of life that comes and the manifestation that comes. So I'm super excited to have you here, and welcome to the show.
Thank you. Oh, it was nice to hear my bio read back to me. I've never actually heard it out loud to me. I was like, that is exactly what my work is. I love it. I loved hearing it. So thank you for that introduction. And I'm just, super excited to be here.
Yes. So the way I thought I would drop in today to this, because, and I love that I actually talk about embodiment and trauma work, right? Like, for those of you who've been following my journey, and Jenna, you probably don't know this yet, but for those of you who've been following my journey, you know that these last 6 months, I've been deep in releasing trauma work, which has been so profound in my life. And I have been doing neurofeedback, which is a rewiring of the brain. And through that, they started to like trigger my trauma center and then also trigger my limbic system. And so we were triggering out the trauma and having it processed, triggering out the trauma. And every week, trigger for 3 months. You can imagine there was a lot that happened in that 3 months. And then from that has allowed me to once we stopped triggering it, has allowed me to really start to move through a lot of past stuff. And so I love that what you're doing is this trauma embodiment work, because I know, like, it's amazing, even though I've been in the industry for 15 years, 16 years. I think I think this is such an important topic, because I think there's a lot of, I'm going to say, the woo-woo, airy-fairy, law of attraction. I want to say that at the superficial level of manifestation, and the superficial level of, if I just think it and I see it and I tell myself, then everything's going to change. But that's not necessarily true. And I know there's probably a lot of people who are listening that are like frustrated as hell that this is like, I've been doing this for years and sometimes I get the results and sometimes I don't. And so I think this is a huge piece. I know for me last year, I also did work in something called quantum flow, which was another like huge breath work experience, moving your body and like helping call things through and release through the body, which has also been a hugely profound part of my work. And I know the shift that's happened for me from using these tools, even though life was already in that really pretty good place, and so I'd love to have you talk a little bit more about what that kind of stuff means. Like, what does it mean to have trauma embodiment and breath work, and just take it from there. Like, talk a little bit about that. What's that for you?
Yeah, so the modality of breathwork that I am trained in is called biodynamic breathwork and trauma release system. So a lot of my training is around what creates trauma and where it gets stored. And, our body is a walking library of memory. And our nervous system is like you said, the circuits or the emotional circuits that maybe didn't get completed because they got interrupted, or perhaps there was a patterning that was created through the neural pathways that created a belief that creates fear or creates a stuckness in the body. That's all happening through our nervous system. That's all happening through the connection of everything that we are in our being. And so when it comes to trauma and releasing that, there is a place beyond thinking, and that happens through the body. And what we do in this type of breath work that I'm trained in is we are utilizing the breath to activate the nervous system into a sympathetic state. So when we go into sympathetic, we're activating the autonomic nervous system. Sympathetic state is when we're in that fight or flight state. So we'll notice a charge in the body. And what can show up when we're in the charge of a breathwork session is we might get tight hands, we might get what they call tetany, or we might get a locked jaw, or we might be holding on. It just creates like a contraction or tension in the body. We might notice pain, we might notice discomfort, we might notice emotion showing up, which is literally energy in motion. And so this modality in particular works with the breath to charge up the sympathetic nervous system to create whatever wants to be revealed, and utilizing the breath to go into the sensations of the body. And when we do that, when we bring all our loving presence to something, say if it's tension, pain, discomfort, and emotion that we're not used to being with, or even if it's frustration, because sometimes when someone's in breath work and they're very heady and they're very in their mind, it can get really frustrating because that drop in can be challenging, especially if we've been disassociated. We're very heady. We've been taught to be in our lives from the neck up. And so this practice is really dropping us into the wisdom of the body. All of the intelligence is working not only in this brain that we have in our heads, it's with the body, it's through the nervous system. Everything is connected to everything. And so when we're dropping into the body in this way, it's doing its medicine for wherever you're at. And this is the thing I love about it, is it doesn't matter where you're at on your journey. It doesn't matter if you're just beginning or if you're deeply, deeply into the work, you've been doing it for years. The breath will always take you home into the body. It will expand you into new spaces and places within you. It will show you where the wisdom is within you. And utilizing touch, utilizing sound, utilizing movement, utilizing the breath, and allowing the emotions to be moved through. Because yes, we're activating something that might be stored in the nervous system, say a trauma that's been created. And I don't really go into the story too much of trauma, because I don't necessarily believe that it's necessary. I think there's a certain part of our path where going into the story is very, very important. And that's where like counselors or therapists or talk therapy is really, really valuable. I'm not discounting that at all. But there comes a point where it's an and game, right? It's not one or the other. It's an and game. And what I find with this is it creates less needing to know why and more being with what is. And for me, beautiful. That shifts things really quickly within me, because an emotion will come and I don't need to think, oh, that's because of X, Y, Z. It will just be here and I'll just facilitate it and allow it, because I've worked with my nervous system. I've created a resiliency with my nervous system through this practice, where when that emotion comes up, I'm like, okay, right, let's be with this. Let's allow it. Let's see what it wants to reveal, because oftentimes it will reveal maybe a subconscious belief, or it will reveal a longing, or it will reveal a desire, or it will just reveal whatever it needs to, and then it's done. And there's no need to keep going into the story, because oftentimes when we go into, oh, that's because of that, and that's because of that, and if we keep repeating that and keep repeating that, we're just recreating the story again. And oftentimes it can come up, be seen, and it's done, and we can move forward. And I am very much a human being in creative solution. So I don't necessarily look at real big picture forward. I'm always looking at where's the next step. It's that, did you ever play Crash Bandicoot?
Mm-mm.
It was like a video game when I was younger. And there's this one level in Crash Bandicoot where you're running and you've got to catch the prizes, and you've got to avoid the things that could kill you. But there's this one stage where it's all in the darkness and you've only got like this little bit of light in front of you to see what's there. And I believe that's the best way to play this game of life. And when we're working with the breath, we're just being with what's here. It brings our total awareness, our total presence into the breath, into the body, to see what's here now. And for me, that is learning to be really resilient within yourself and not needing to look for answers outside of yourself. And I think this is a really beautiful thing to bring in, especially at this time in the world with what's going on with, is this the truth? Is that the truth? You have the truth within you, and you can always find it within you. You do not need facts and opinions to find the truth. It's always residing within you. And if you bring your presence still enough and you can get to that place within you, you will always find the answer.
Yes.
For you.
Yes. It's so beautiful. It's so true what you're saying. Like, it's so often that we replay these stories. And if there's something I have learned for sure about the body, it's like, so I started as a massage therapist in this work, right? And especially with myofascial. So for those of you who don't know what myofascial work is, the fascia is it's what connects everything. It's a connective tissue. It connects every single thing in your body. And so we, just like with breath work, you hold, you store your emotions. You store so much in the fascia of your body. And so it was so beautiful to witness all the time. We would witness people, and especially in our trainings, it's interesting as a client to have someone on a table. It's very rare to see someone fully release, unless probably someone like you, if I put you on a table to do something like that, Jenna, you would allow yourself to go the places you go. Right. But most people don't even know that their bodies are allowed to go the places they can go to release. And like, we would have these amazing experiences. And especially because we were in groups of really safe held spaces, where at some point someone would start to unwind, and then like there'd be four people surrounding and like holding space, and like the wild emotions and process, and like the whole body would just go. And it's when I have the chills, it's like one of the most profound things you can experience. And you can get it through breath too. Like, this is why I'm saying it's so similar in that, like, it's just that wherever it is held, when you're working with the fascia, like it's just held there. So it's often like you'll hit something, and even if people don't fully release, I would always often get tears from clients on tables and stuff like that, because you can allow your body to release what's being held, and we don't have to know. And the thing that I love about breathwork, and it's why I wanted to have you here, is like, I think it's one of the most powerful tools we have as a human. I truly do. And I think people discredit the power of a breath. And I mean, like, you could take literally 10 seconds in your day. Every hour, you can take 3 minutes. You could go as far as having these hour-long sessions with Jenna to move things in your body. And I know usually, like, if I start to have tension in my body, like the first thing I'll do is, wait, stop, Carrie. Breathe, like come into your body, feel yourself, relax into things. And I think it's one of the most powerful tools we have in the world, because it's always with you. Like, it's always with you. You don't need anything else in the world, and it's always here, and you can connect. And then within moments, it can be fully released. And even things like, I know I've moved headaches, like intense headaches, with it, pain in your body. It's often just something that's like trapped there. And if you can connect with it and like just feel it, like, and you, like you said, you don't have to know what it is, right? Sometimes I know for myself, sometimes there'll be an awareness that comes when I'm like, oh, that memory or that thing just came up and we can move it. And sometimes it's just like, okay, I'll just sit with it, breathe it, and then it's just gone, and we don't ever have to know. And so I just love that. So can you share with people, like, even just here, speaking of this, like if there's something right now that people could start to do as like a little mini break in their day of like a 1 minute or a 30-second breath piece to help them, if they're in these places, they're like, oh my God, I'm feeling the tension or that anxiety, especially now, right? Like, as you said, the world is pretty hectic at the moment. And so whether your life is amazing, I know for myself, like, life is pretty, there's a lot of great things happening in my life. It doesn't mean that I don't all of a sudden feel the collective energy of the world. And I'm like, okay, take a breath. This isn't mine. How do I let this go? Like that kind of a thing. I'd love to hear a little bit about how you would move through that kind of a thing, or what kind of breaths we could take to help with that support.
Yeah, so for me, a really valuable tool, and it brings you into heart coherence. So a lot of the time when we're experiencing tension or stress or anxiety or those sorts of things, it's because we've got too outside of our body with our thoughts. And the invitation is to come back to the body, come back to our heart, come back to our center, get to the heart of the matter. And so a really beautiful breath to allow heart coherence, to allow us to drop back into the body, back into our hearts, is box breathing.
It's my favorite.
It's 5 seconds of inhalation. So I'm going to use my finger as well to show it. So breathing in, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, holding for 5 seconds, breathing out for 5 seconds, holding for 5 seconds. And just keep repeating that until you drop back in. And usually it takes about 5 of those breaths, sometimes 10. Closing your eyes when you do that practice, so you can really just allow the presence to be with the breath. And I love what you said, the breath is always accessible. And something I realized through this work, through working with my body, through working with my breath, I had this drop in one day where it was like, I found it hilarious. I found it funny that the breath, the first thing that happens when we come into this life and our umbilical cord is cut from our mother, the first thing we do is take a breath, right? And that's our first illusion of separation. And I find it very hilarious. And the cosmic joke is that to come back to oneness, to come back to the allness that we are, to come back to the consciousness that we all share, is through the breath. The thing that created the separation is also the thing that brings us back home. And
the duality of the world, ultimately, right? That's the ultimate,
of course, the cosmic joke. And so for me, something I was seeing after I had an experience with 5-MeO-DMT, I was seeing a spinal network practitioner in the Gold Coast, Steve Katz, to help with my integration after working with that medicine. And he said to me one day, I think it was at my very first session with him, because he uses the breath very powerfully in that modality. And he said, the breath is not the air we breathe, it's the space we expand into.
Yes, that's beautiful.
And it's really curious to me because, when we're not aware of our breath and being present with it, it breathes us. It is consciousness itself. And so when we bring presence and awareness to that, we can access places and information and spaces within ourselves that we didn't even know was possible. And that to me is probably more of the curiosity and the play and the fun when it comes to breath. And when we're working in this way, when we're working in possibility, when we're working in creation, what I find from my own experience is the trauma, the healing, the slough off has to happen in order to be in creation. So for me, the places of expansion, of creation, of playing in that way has the beautiful onflow effect of healing in the same time. It's the duality comes into oneness when you're in creation, because what no longer serves you has to go.
Yes.
So that's my curiosity when it comes to the breath. I really like to bring that in. And when I was working on retreats with plant medicines, and I was doing these workshops called Creating a Dream, and I now have the online workshop with this.
Yeah, please go ahead and share that. Yeah.
Yeah, when we go into these workshops, when we did it on retreat, it was seeding the idea that no matter what, these medicines in ancient times were used to creating a dream. Dream time in the Aboriginal shamanic practices is very common. And because there's a lot of hucha, a lot of heavy energy on the planet right now, a lot of us are focusing on our healing, focusing on working through our traumas. Nothing wrong with that. It's perfect. Wherever we are at is exactly where we get to be right now. And I am just here to be an invitation to allowing creation to be the movement that allows the slough off, that allows the trauma to be released, that allows that to reveal through creation. Because I know anytime I launch initiation, like an online initiation, like Reclamation of Women, whenever I am calling in the woman for something like that, I am going through a portal of creation, and anything that cannot be in that creation has to die off. And so I go through this initiation whenever I'm creating something to help another. I am already in the timelines and in the information field of all of the women that have said yes in some future moment that already exists. And I'm playing in the energetics, and I get to be the space or the container to be able to play in that with them. And so oftentimes there's things that need to go through that creation. And so I'm like, it's like personal development on
101.
crack.
Right.
And so this is why I get excited about the idea of creation and allowing that to be with the healing, because it's not an or game, it's an and game. We can be in both. We can have extreme joy and sadness all at one time. This is mastery. And so oftentimes I see in people who are building businesses or creating, wanting to create a business, they will say, but I've got to heal this. I've got to do this other course. I've got to know more. I've got to be something else. And I'm here to tell you that if you just lean into creating the thing that's on your heart, all of that will happen as you go into the creation of it. And it 100%. Becomes this beautiful dance of being able to hold both. And that's mastery. That's the delicious, yes, we have duality in this reality, and the mastery is to dance in both, to play in the depth and the light, to be the darkness, to be the highest frequency of light there is. It's all encasing, and it then becomes this beautiful melody of not preferring one or the other, but just playing in whatever's here now. And I think that's one of the best things that the breath work teaches me, because you can't fucking know what's going to show up in a breath section. Like, you may go in thinking, oh yeah, I'm feeling vibey, I'm feeling sensual, and then like massive anger comes through, or, you'll go into a memory that you didn't even know exists, and then you're being with some kind of something new that is wanting to bubble to the surface for you to be aware of, for you to take care of, for you to nurture with the breath, with your presence, with your acute awareness. And yeah, I think that's why I find this whole game really fascinating.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
And I call it a game because I really like to bring play into everything. I think a lot of these practices have got big sticks up their asses. And I think, when we take the stick out of our asses, especially in business, like, none of it means anything unless we're making it mean something. And if we take the big stick out of our asses, we can just enjoy the process. We can have fun with it. We can play with it. We can be in creation, which is play. You watch a child play. They're not thinking about the result. They're not thinking about making it to the other side of what they're playing in. They're just playing to play, to see what shows up next. And this is the best unraveling of our conditioning or training in this society, so that we can actually enjoy our fucking lives, to be so present with what's here and enjoy it.
Just a quick pause in the show to let you know about an upcoming program I'm running called New Wealth from Crypto. I have been on a journey to learn about becoming fully financially sovereign, meaning breaking free of the banking system. Whilst you can fully break free, you don't have to completely remove yourself from the banking system. And I highly recommend that you learn about decentralized finance. If you haven't heard me raving on about it in my other podcasts, please go and check out the third podcast with Roscoe Pattison on DeFi now to go and get the understanding of what I'm talking about. And in the meantime, know that there is a way for you to make 5 to 27% plus safe and stable returns with minimal time invested. Yes, it's in the crypto space. No, it's not volatile like Bitcoin. As the governments print more money and inflation gets higher and higher, it is more and more important for you to know how to free yourself from the banking system and to be able to hold your money and create these amazing returns. New Wealth from Crypto is my program to teach you everything you need to know about investing for yourself and setting up your own portfolio in a safe and stable way. This has completely changed my life, and I'm going to rave on and on and on about it. Trust me, if I can do this, so can you. Also, it's important to know that timing matters in this. You have an opportunity right now to get into this space at the forefront of its growth. So many people already look at crypto and think, I wish I had gotten in when I got the first nudge, and are kicking themselves right now that they didn't. Are you one of those people? Do you want to be one of those people? Consider this your nudge from the universe right now. Don't wait. Reach out today. Email me at Keri, K-E-R-I, at KeriNorley, KeriNorley.com for more info today. And now back to the show.
Because otherwise, what's the fucking point?
100%. 100%. It's interesting. The thing that came to me as you're saying this was this saying my shamanic teacher used to say was like, we have to learn to live with one foot in each world, like to be able to cross the worlds. And because like you said, like in shamanic work, there is journey, like you can go and journey all sorts of different lands and landscapes and dimensions and all sorts of things. But like, it's easy to play in that world. I'm going to say like in the quantum world, the quantum realms, like I can lead people to there, you can lead people there, but I'm going to say like, it's easy because it's fun and it's playful. And like, there's this journey and I can create anything that I desire. And then I remember when my mentor would bring us back from like our journeys and we'd all be like, do we have to come back? She's like, yes, you have to learn to live with your feet in both worlds because it's so easy. And I think this is a big problem when we talk about manifestation. And I love to actually move into this piece of the conversation around money and breathwork and all this stuff too. But when we talk about manifestation, I think this is the piece that most people are missing is this embodiment piece and living in both worlds, because it is the easier one to sit and visualize and meditate and hope a bag of money falls on my head. But actually, in order to ground it to this planet, we actually have to be in our bodies. Like we are in human form, right? So when we're out and our souls are traveling to other places and like, that's all really fun and amazing and totally a wonderful part of this journey. But like, if we don't bring it back into our bodies or onto the planet, this density, then it remains a dream. It doesn't ever manifest into reality. And I think this is a huge piece of what people are missing in the process, right? It's like we have to, and in order to do that, we have to clear the density in our body because there's no space. And like, this is what you were talking about in expansion. When I do my quantum flow work, it's like a body movement practice. And often like what we're working towards is like, how can I clear this out to expand my container to be able to have a clear vessel to bring through the manifestation to live into my body. And without that, it's lost. Like it's out there still, right? And so I'd love to hear, because before we got on the call, Jenna said to me, I have some very interesting beliefs around money. And so I'd love to start talking on that, because I think this is like a really great segue into that piece of like, so what are some of these beliefs? And you can start there, but then also like, how does breathwork, and this embodiment piece that I'm opening here to really start to help this process with manifesting more money, more manifesting wealth, manifesting, I don't even like saying money. It's like wealth is so much more expansive than money to me. And having our dreams come into fruition.
Yeah. So I am money. I am wealth. I am you. I am this bed I sit on. I am this microphone I'm speaking into. There is no separation. So how I speak about it is how it relates to me. So when I realized that money is not something that's over there, that I am it, it became so much easier. And I didn't have that understanding until I really dived deep into my cellular memory of knowing that I am everything. Everything that I see in this external reality is coming from this internal reality.
100%, yes.
And so therefore, there is no separation. There is no mistake that I'm in this conversation with you and we're dancing back and forth. Otherwise, it wouldn't be happening. It wouldn't exist. And so when it comes to money, there is the law of reciprocity. And when I am receiving, you are receiving. And I think we have this idea of we need to give to receive, which is really odd to me, because I receive and you receive. We're all receiving. We're receiving. We're receiving. We're receiving. And I think we've had this idea of transactional give, take.
Time for money.
What What if it's all about celebration, appreciation, and receiving? And it's that simple. It's not a transactional game. It's a receiving game, a celebration game, an appreciation game. And the more we play that, the more we see it, the more we have it, the more we play with it, the more we be it. And that's the conversation I choose to play in. I also have a really deep belief that I just get paid for being me. And so, like, I joke with my friends all the time. Like, I had a car accident back in March, and I'm still being with some of the leftover whiplash concussion symptoms. And so that often requires me to nap. And I have joked, but it comes from a very deep knowing within me that when I am sleeping more, when my body is asking for more rest, like naps in the day, or I'm sleeping for longer periods at night, I am doing far more work in some other realm that I'm not privy to than what's needed here in the physicality. The work that I'm doing is replenishing, restoring, recharging. So I really, sometimes I will resist it, but I now have learned and trained myself to be like, okay, rest it is, I'm going to work. And so I'll have a sleep. And the other day when I had this migraine show up from these symptoms that I've been with since this car accident, I woke up and I had $3,000 in my bank account. Like, it just was like, I woke up and I had this message from someone just being like, I just paid you, here's the, and she was really excited, and it was $3,000. And I'm like, of course. And then I did a breathwork class a few weeks back, and I hadn't been eating any deep fried chip for a while. And I was like, oh, I really want some hot chips, which you guys call fries in America. And I was like, oh, I could really get some hot chips. And I parked outside this place that I really like, Beers, and my friend had messaged and he was getting a pizza for dinner, and I was like, well, if he's getting a pizza, I'm definitely getting chips. And I was sitting in this like, do I, don't I, do I, don't I, do I, don't I? And then I was like, no, go home, you've got food in your fridge, just go home. And then I saw one of the girls from the breathwork walking into the place that I was going to get dinner from, and I was like, well, if she's going in there for dinner, I'm definitely getting the hot chips. So I walked in, ordered my deep fried shit, and sat down with her, and we got talking. And she knows that I have a retreat coming up in October here in New Zealand. And she said, hey, I've been thinking about it. I think I'm going to come. I think I'm a yes. And I was like, cool. And we had a quick chat, and there's another $3,000. Like, I was just like, when I'm eating deep fried shit, I get paid. Like, it's just the funniest game to me. And this belief really serves me, because I don't have to try and be anything or create anything or do anything to get paid. I just be me, and I be as authentic in that as I can. And I allow my body's wisdom, because I work in a very feminine flow. Like, I'm very efficient. When I need to focus and get shit done, I just get it done. I'm very, very efficient. And the rest of the time I have a lot of space to be in nature, to be with my body, to self-pleasure, to spend time with the people who I love and care about. And that, to me, is work. If I don't have those avenues nourishing me, my availability to receive gets very, very small. My cup gets so small. When I'm enjoying my life and I am in the elements and my body is feeling alive and turned on, and I'm feeling in my desires, and I'm playing with others, and I'm having laughter, and I'm nourishing my body with really good water and food, my cup is so huge. I don't even have to think about what I'm doing, because it just pours. It's like a big yes button. And this beingness is kind of the crux of what I am here to remind people, because the doing and the being is one. It's not you've got to be or do. There comes a time where those things are a little separate, but once you get into the flow of doing and being, you don't even think about it. And I think this is the thing, like when we drop into our bodies and we're utilizing our breath and we're moving our bodies and we're touching our bodies and we're feeling our senses and we're listening to our sensations, because that is the soul's language. The soul came here to experience itself through sensation. This is a sense game. We're in the world of sensory. So we want to feel it all. We came here to feel the full spectrum of who we are. And if we're thinking about it all the time, what we shouldn't do, what's next, where are we going, is this okay, we're missing a lot of the experience. And so when we're dropping into our bodies and we're feeling what's here, we can be in all of it. It's the and game.
100%.
And I know we got kind of sideways on that with money, but money is not separate from that.
No.
When we are allowing and receiving, money's not even a thought place. It just pours in because it's being with you. It's playing with you. The relationship you build with it. And I talk about the relationship to everything because my background is shamanic as well. And I believe this bed I'm sitting on right now while I'm talking to you, I'm in relationship to it. It houses me while, it supports me and holds me while I sleep and replenish and do that work. And the money that comes into my bank account that gets gifted to me for a small amount of time helps me to nourish my body, to play, to go on adventures, to buy things that I like, to have this conversation with you right now, through the power that's creating, this ring light that's behind my phone to be on right now so you can see me, and the microphone that I'm talking into, and everything is touching everything. And so money, I have been in relationship with money since the moment I was born, because the human that gave birth to me, who adopted me, I'm just going to go a little further, she needed to be kept alive while she was pregnant with me. That required food, that required home, that required warmth. And we don't need all of those things, but in the Western world, we have the luxuries of those things. And we do need food. But money supported her while she was pregnant with me. The people who adopted me were able to utilize money to keep me warm, to change my nappies, to have a new nappy, to wash my clothes, Money is part of this reality. It's infused in everything we see. Everything. It is creation itself. I am creation itself. And so therefore, when we see it in everything, we can love and appreciate it in everything, and we can receive it through that appreciation.
Yes. It's interesting because I have a book, The New Wealth, Magnetize Abundance, Hold Your Wealth and Leave a Legacy. And I talk in there about how money is currency, right? Like it is literally the currency. And if we go into pleasure, it is the, that sexual energy, that same life force, like when I started to relate these two things together, right? That sexual energy is actually life force energy, is actually currency, which is actually the same currency of which is money, right? It is wealth. It is all the same. It was like, wait, all I have to do is actually start to move this sexual energy, which is life force energy, which is wealth, which is everything. And I just get to be in pleasure all day. Like literally, it's like the more that I can make my life more pleasurable and the more that I can live an orgasmic life, which does not necessarily mean having sex all day long, right? Like I can be breathing, I can be moving, I can be anything and have an orgasmic life. Feeling that currency move through us, the more that we become an attractor for money. And I love how you said that, like, I am money. And the more that I open myself to receive, it just shows up. Right. And I think it's a fascinating thing because one of the reasons that I talk about wealth, not just like business growth, is because money comes from a bazillion places. right?
Everywhere.
And I think it's something that people do in business is limit themselves as to like, this is my channel. And even recently I was watching somebody who was like, I want to have 6 streams of income from her business. And I was like, you're still limiting yourself. I'm like, why are you solely focused on your business? Like that's still, and especially in this last, year and a half, as we watched last year in 2020, so many businesses completely collapse that were well-established 20, 30, 40, 50-year-old businesses completely collapse, right? In the economy. It was just like another one of those things that was like, your business is not the only stream of income that you have available to you. And the more that we open ourselves up, it's one of the reasons I love decentralized finance. And the more that I play in the space, I put a post up today that I was just like, because I was playing in my portfolio today, and I had taken a crypto volatile asset and put it into the decentralized space, meaning that I could then get interest. So as my crypto asset grows, it's already making more money. And now it's actually making interest on the money. So like even in just that asset itself, I have multiple ways of making money. Right. And so now across the board, there are so many ways. And every single day I wake up and I know like the dream that everybody has, like I want to be, like I have money showing up for me every single day. Right. And I was like, it's already here for you, where we get to open our minds to how it shows up. Right. And then we can be so fully supported. And so because of that, like money can come from a million places as long as we open ourselves to receive. And as you said, like open our vessel, our container, to allow ourselves to receive and not have to work for it. Like I don't work for that. I mean, I set it up and now it's just making me money all the time. Right? Investments do these things if done properly. Business can do this as well. Right? As you said, like there's so many avenues for it. But the first thing that we have to do is realize that it's all just a currency that we ultimately tap into and then allow ourselves to receive this flow, this energy. And if we have these blockages within our body, that's the thing that will, I think, doesn't stop it, but it has like it's like if you're in a river and there's a big, huge rock in the river, it's going to have to flow around it. And you don't get to have the full force of the flow. And so, so the more that we can.
You just said that because while you've been talking, I've been thinking about an analogy, which isn't even an analogy. It's just fucking everything. But I've been thinking about how water, right, recirculating in a river, it evaporates, it goes to a cloud, it then falls down, becomes a river again. Money comes into your bank account, it goes out, and it comes back again. Like everything is recirculating. It's the law of reciprocity. Everything recirculates, including like our bodies, women's bodies. We are cycling
all the time, every month.
All the seasons that we go through in a year. It's everything is on cycle. And the receiving is where we get to really hold ourselves because I think of it like masculine, feminine. Like the masculine is the riverbanks, right?
Oh, this is exactly what I wrote in my book. Go. Of course it is.
And then the chaotic flow of the river, right? And those riverbanks can widen and they can hold more and they can hold more chaos and they can hold more flow. And this is that structure piece, right? It's that being structured in our money, like you said, like when it's set up properly, when we create the structures, when we create the channels, when we allow that, we can allow whatever flow wants to come in, however that looks, and we're not limiting it to anything. And that's exciting.
100%. The other thing I add to that in the book, because I talk about holding on to wealth, is like when we have like the eddy that's right there in the middle of the river, it's like, this is this place. And it is a really great visualization for me piece. Cause it was like, even when we hold money, right. I've had to learn growing up because I was taught growing up to hold on to money. And it was almost like a strangling of holding on to money, and which has served me well, but also I've had to learn to release it. And so when you look at in these rivers, right, we have these eddies, then these pools that like the money comes in and it kind of swirls around in, but eventually it still slowly kind of leaks out, right? It's just like, but it's like a more of a holding pattern, but there's still a flow that comes around and through. It just kind of holds first. And so like we have the banks where you get held, then this crazy flow, and then there's this other piece that it's It's like, and we can also hold it, but then it can still slowly move because all of it gets to be a moving flow. And we can still hold our money. And I think that's something that a lot of people don't, I always say, like, the first part of manifestation process that people will learn around money is often like, how do I bring it in? But then they don't learn it's okay that I actually hold it. Like, I am worthy to grow my wealth, right? Like, I don't still have to live paycheck to paycheck, and how that shows up in our nervous system, right? The stress, the response, and so you can actually allow yourself to hold it too, even within the currency in this flow. Like, there is these beautiful ways of moving with your currency and allowing yourself to hold it and also flow with it and allow it to just be allowed to receive as abundantly as possible and open that space. I love how you said that, like, that the river would widen too. I love it. It's beautiful.
Yeah. And this is the thing, you were talking about manifestation, right? Like, calling in from the nothing, the everything, the quantum, the creation space into the physical. And if we're thinking about that in money or in what we're creating in our business or calling in clients or whatever it is, what is the feeling that's associated to that? Like, for example, for me, the feeling of innocence or freedom when it comes to money, like that real playful energy that I understand feels like, let me get into the feeling of it. Yeah, it's like vibration, it's aliveness, it's flow, it's movement. I get to create that so that the soul, the being, the energetic frequency that I am, is vibing in that feeling, that sensation, that frequency, so that just magnetizes to me. It's basic quantum physics, it's resonance. So if I can think all of the good thoughts, like $1 million is coming my way, yeah. And what is the feeling with that $1 million? Why? Because a lot of times we think it's just because it will make us feel better. Well, what does
or somehow I'm going to be happier because I have $1 million.
Or it's going to mean something about us. And that's such a heady game. And when we get into, like, what's the feeling? And we express that. And this is why breathwork is so potent. This is why plant medicine is so potent. This is why moving our bodies, like, I go on a medicine journey every time I work with my PT. Like, I will deeply be in some kind of frequency because my body is in flow. It's in movement. It's in flux. It's allowing energy to shift and move. And that is where the manifestation comes into the physical, because you're being the frequency that is to whatever you're creating. And so the more we be in our bodies, the more we enjoy what's here now, the more present we can be. You said something about orgasm earlier, and you said something about orgasm. And my belief when it comes to orgasm, it's presence.
Yeah.
I cannot climax if I am not very, very present with my body and the sensations and what's there, what I'm feeling, right? There is no way I'm going to climax
if you're in our head thinking about your spreadsheets and your clients.
Thinking about tomorrow and what I'm going to make for breakfast, or, oh shit, I didn't do that thing. I'm so far away from climax. There is no way. And it becomes like a frustration game, right? And this is the piece. This is the piece out of all the things that we've talked about today. Life is an orgasm. It's just whether you're present to that orgasm. And if your presence and your focus and your attention is here, thinking about the $1 million doesn't even exist, because it already is. It's already created. It's already looked after. So present, and everything you desire, dream of, wish for, doesn't even matter, because it's already created. You're so present with what's here now, the orgasm of this moment, that none of that even fucking matters. Because it's already, like, if that's what you're creating, it's here right now, in this moment, in this sensation, in this appreciation, in this receiving of this moment. Because you'll get to the million, I'm using $1 million as an example, but like you'll get to the relationship, or you'll get to the nice car, or you'll get to the $1 million, or you'll get to the perfect body. And you'll still be looking for the next thing, and the next thing, and the next thing, and the next thing, and you'll miss the whole journey. You'll miss the whole point. Were you even present for any of it? Our presence is what creates everything.
So beautiful.
And that's what the breath and our bodies teach us.
So beautiful. Such a wonderful way to start wrapping this. I would love to ask, is there anything you would love to add as maybe like 1 or 2 tips, or that we can leave people with as like a way to help drop into this embodiment and this presence into your body, to be able to cultivate this presence, if it's something that, like, I'm sure, I know, we all have headiness moments, but it is a practice. Yeah. I know it's been a practice for me, for sure, to be like, Carrie, your head can just float over there. We don't need to use you right now, and drop into the body. So any tips for that?
Yep. And it's going to be super simple. 3 things. Get your feet out on the earth and look at nature, and be present with nature, even immersing yourself in her, in the water, looking at a fire, being with your feet in the dirt or your hands in the dirt. That is the first one, nature. The second one is drinking more water than you think you need. Drink water, good quality water.
Good quality water.
It's going to help you. And even, because I think a lot of people get stuck on that one, like, oh, what kind of water should I drink? Even if you have tap water and you say to it, or you program it with your intention and your sacred breath, and you say, this will replenish all my cells and bring me to my highest and best. May this be the highest frequency of light. And you breathe your sacred breath into your cup. You have good quality water. I don't give a shit what anyone says. Water, be hydrated. And the third one is practice presence. And however you practice presence, for me, that's self-pleasure, touching my body, being with my senses and breathing into my body. Dancing is another way that I practice presence. Drawing and art is another way that I practice presence. Breathwork is another way that I practice presence. And simply just being is another way that I practice presence.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Jenna. This has been such an amazing experience, such wonderful, wonderful, amazing content that you have shared with us. Please tell everybody. So you mentioned your program, that 2-hour program. Please tell everybody about that. And both of them. You can tell them about that, and then the bigger program as well.
Yeah, so Creating a Dream is a masterclass. It's pre-recorded. You can find it. I'll give you the link for that. It's $49 USD. And if anyone's listening here and you want to go play in it, it's a masterclass to reverse engineer how we create. Everything is thought, word, action. And this is a reverse engineering of that, so that you can actually be in the action to create the new neural pathway to the thoughts. Because oftentimes we can't even create the wealth we think we want, because we're stuck in old ways of thinking. And so the action needs to come first to create the new thoughts. So it's a masterclass in creating a dream, whatever that dream might be for you. And then there's the embodiment, which is the breath work that goes through that. So that's there. It's 2 hours. And you'll get $20 off that with the code WEALTH. So I'll send all of that to you so that you can share that with the listeners. Reclamation of Women, we've got round 2 kicking off in October. This is a 16-week online initiation through the body, and it's to reclaim all of who you are. So we work through different tension or bouts of tension in the body to release, to allow and activate different parts of the body so that we can open and expand and widen our container and really bring our presence into our being and into our orgasm. So that is kicking off in October. There is a link to that I can give you for my website.
We'll put it all into the show notes.
It's all on my Instagram. You can check out my stuff on Instagram.
How do they find you on Insta? What's your Insta handle?
Jenna.marie.hitchcock.
Is it Maree?
Yeah. And Jenna, Jenna. I do have a New Zealand accent, so a lot of Americans think I'm Gina. Gina. Yeah. And yeah, if I leave you with anything, if you take anything away from today, is just enjoy it. Enjoy it while it lasts, because this is going to end at some point. And so if you're not enjoying it, what's the fucking point?
100%. Thank you, my dear. It has been an absolute pleasure to have you here. And for everybody else listening, I look forward to seeing you on the next show. Have a wonderful week. Until then, thanks, Jenna.
Thanks.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode. If you love what you heard, please help us get this message out to more people, because together we rise. Please review it, subscribe to the show, and share on social media. When you share, please tag me. On Insta, I'm at Carrie Norley, and on Facebook, I'm facebook.com/Carrie Norley 1, or Carrie Kaplan Norley is my official name there. Please come and connect with me on social media and say hello. I love hearing from my listeners. And thank you so much for your support. I'm so excited to help you bring in the new wealth.